Good evening and welcome to 1010, your top 10 news of the week in 10 minutes, brought to you by yours truly, Andy Hong. I hope you're all enjoying the first week of March. The weather's really warming up if you discount the little rain that we had on Monday. I personally prefer colder weather, but hey, I'm not complaining, especially, of course, with the continued severe winter storms in the East Coast after Winter Storm Juno. Winter Storm Thor left a wake of freezing cold air in the Midwest, Northeast, and the South. The South has seen record-breaking temperatures and snow in the past month or so, and the incessant ice and snow prompted school closures across the nation and numerous traffic pileups. In New York City's LaGuardia Airport, a Delta passenger plane skid off the 7,000-foot runway. Due to the icy conditions on the tarmac, a total of 11 have been reported dead due to the storm throughout the United States. If you remember, last week we reported on the group ISIS and its destruction of countless ancient artifacts in a museum in Mosul, Iraq. This week, the group once again struck an Iraqi archaeological site of the ancient Assyrian city of Nimrod, close to Mosul. The head of the UN Cultural Agency called this systematic destruction of culture a war crime and, in typical UN fashion, did nothing about it. ISIS calls the ancient relics pagan idols for worship and quotes the Prophet Muhammad to justify their stupidity. Nimrod, the city that they bulldozed, was the capital of the ancient Assyrian Empire in various periods from 1200 to 700 BCE, although the city of Ashur was the primary religious and political capital of the empire throughout its 19th century long history from 2500 to 600 BCE. The city was part of a flourishing culture, and its buildings survived millennia in the harsh Iraqi desert from the Bronze Age to the Information Age, only to be bulldozed in one day. However, Iraqi forces found no time to go after these monsters as they were heavily engaged in the city of Tikrit. Interestingly, Iranian militias were among the ranks fighting alongside the Iraqis. Iraq and Iran have never been very good friends, with the tensions exploding in 1980 with the Iran-Iraq War, where conventional and chemical weapons claimed hundreds of thousands of lives. Well, according to CBS, an Iranian general may have been leading the assault on Tikrit this week, so I guess crisis can make friends out of enemies. The United States is, of course, very cautious about Iran's influence over the turmoil in Iraq. Let's not forget that ISIS is only one of the many different terrorist groups, such as Al-Shabaab, Boko Haram, Hezbollah, and last but not least, Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. The latter two have been the main terrorist groups that America has been in war with for the past decade and a half, yet the two groups still managed to continuously come back to life. Recently, in Pakistan, 107 schools have been renamed after the children who were killed in the December 2014 Taliban attack against a Peshawar school. Meanwhile, the Syrian Air Force, condemned just a year ago for bombing civilians during the Syrian civil war, killed at most 13 senior members of the Al-Nusra Front, leaders of the Al-Qaeda branch responsible for Syria. The joint U.S. Mideast coalition involved in Operation Inherent Resolve, the bombing operation against ISIS, confirmed that they were not involved in the said attack against Al-Qaeda. Even as more and more governments and people become turned away from terrorism, these groups just keep popping up everywhere across the world. Like an impossible game of whack-a-mole, the only way to beat this game, of course, is to unplug the machine, to uproot the ideas of justified extremism and jihad. But then again, it's easier said than done, unfortunately. In South Korea, the U.S. ambassador Mark Lippert was slashed in the face and the arm with a knife by a radical militant nationalist. Fortunately, Ambassador Lippert is recovering in the Yonsei hospital, and the attacker, Kim Ki-jong, is in custody of the Korean police. Kim reportedly committed the crime to protest the joint America-South Korea military drills, which began Monday, which he, along with a small group of radicalists in Korea, see as a roadblock to reunification of the peninsula. Kim has been reported to have made illegal visits to North Korea between 2006 and 2007 and has been jailed after throwing concrete at a Japanese ambassador in the past. The South Korean police wants to bring attempted murder charges on Kim, and the government has increased the security for the U.S. embassy. Meanwhile, a North Korean diplomat also had a bad day when customs officials in Bangladesh busted him for carrying $1.7 million worth of gold bars and ornaments in his hand luggage. It is suspected that he was a carrier in a larger, more elaborate criminal gold smuggling operation. Also this week, Darren Wilson, the white police officer who shot an African-American teen in Ferguson, Missouri, was cleared of any rights violations by the Justice Department on Wednesday, sparking renewed outcry. Police brutality has been a large issue in the United States for the past year. But we must remember that police brutality is not just an American problem. In Venezuela, the police killed a 14-year-old boy in San Cristobal during an anti-government demonstration. Ever since the death of the powerful Venezuelan leader Hugo Chavez, the people have become more and more vocal about the problems in the nation, specifically the shortage of basic goods like tissue and food. In response, current President Nicolas Maduro has shown little leadership and instead unleashed the police on the masses and blamed the United States for much of the nation's problems. Now, if you think you're safe from political turmoil, you're not out of the woods yet. Microsoft has announced that it has detected a loophole that could allow hackers to tap into supposedly secure communications. It's named Freak, the bug. The bug at the center of Microsoft software used for encrypting data. As you can tell, if you have a gaping hole in your lock, it's going to be pretty easy for any thief to snap it and open it to safe. Figures in a BBC report suggest that 9.5% of the web's top 1 million websites are susceptible. However, Microsoft downplayed the severity of the existence of such a bug by saying that it had not received any information that suggested the attack was being actively exploited by cybercriminals, who, as you know, have been very active for the past months. And 1 year ago, Malaysian Air Flight 370 disappeared just after an hour after taking off from Kuala Lumpur. By now, the black boxes have gone silent, and little hope is left for prospect of survivors. The MH370 mystery is perhaps the biggest aviation mystery as of now, as the 227 passengers and 12 crew members are still considered missing. Although rescue is now highly improbable, there is still hope for recovering the wreckage and the bodies. After all, it took 2 years to find Air France 447's black boxes in the Atlantic Ocean, and that case is officially closed. In addition, speaking of aircraft accidents, actor Harrison Ford was injured after his vintage World War II-era trainer plane crashed into a Los Angeles golf course after an engine failure. Fortunately, spine surgeon Sanjay Khurana happened to be golfing that day and helped to pull Ford out of the wreckage, which was leaking fuel. Ford, who is in stable condition and is now recovering, is an avid and skilled pilot, and his quick decisions in responding to the engine failure helped save a lot of lives that day. Well, I think I can use some good news now after we got through that ton of depressing news. The February jobs report was released with some pretty good news. The economy added 295,000 jobs last month and pushed unemployment down to a 7-year low, 5.5%. Granted, the economy still doesn't have quite the supremacy that it enjoyed in the past, and the oil prices are rising again. But an improvement is an improvement. We'll just have to hope that the trend continues. Finally, for tonight's science news, I have some very, very, very exciting news for all of you. NASA's Dawn space probe became the first man-made object to orbit a dwarf planet, in this case Ceres, which is the largest object between Mars and Jupiter. While we've been hyping about ESA's Rosetta and Philae mission that landed on that comet and NASA's New Horizon mission that is due to arrive at Pluto in a month or two, Dawn has been sailing across the solar system for the past 7.5 years with little publicity. Another fact, Dawn is the first NASA mission to use ion engines, achieving speeds up to 10 kilometers per second. Its main science missions are due to begin late next month. Hit the air horn, Ben. Yeah, that's the spirit. Get excited for science. Yeah. America. And that was the 1010 news for this week. I'm Andy Hong. Remember to reset your clocks this Sunday for the beginning of daylight saving time, which I believe is one of the reasons why we can't have nice things on this planet. Also, there is no 1010 news next week, single tear, due to our studio being closed. So good luck on your SATs next week. And we'll be back the week after the next for more of your top 10 news in 10 minutes. Stay educated.